So where is the evidence that Raven Swift is unfit to keep her own child? Where is the proof that she has neglected, abused, or in any way mistreated Jamison Swift? Where are the complaints from the neighbors suggesting that she's been anything but a loving mother? Where is the eyewitness who can state that Jamison Swift has received anything but the very best of care? Now, let me remind you, Your Honor, there was only one truly qualified witness to the well-being of this child whose future you will decide. Perhaps the most respected social welfare worker in all of Monticello, Mrs. Benita Thomas, who has objectively reported to this court that Jamison Swift is a healthy, happy, and well-treated little boy.
My God.
And in conclusion...
It's Raven's letter.
If the court will permit me one small sentimental remark, Your Honor. It has been said that because God could not be everywhere at once, that he created mothers. Thank you very much.
Mr. Nelson, do you wish to make your closing remarks now?
Cliff, Your Honor, my name is Michael Karr. I'm an associate representing Mr. Swift.
Mr. Karr is very well known to this court.
Thank you, Your Honor. With the court's indulgence, we would like to ask for a 10-minute recess.
Well, for what purpose, Mr. Karr?
Well, some pertinent information has just come to my attention, and I would like the opportunity to discuss it with my client and my colleague.
Objection, Your Honor. I'm sure you'll agree we've already had enough delaying tactics.
It is quite important, Your Honor. I assure you that it will have a great deal of bearing on the decision in this case.
Well, very well, Mr. Karr.
Your Honor, Mr. Nelson has already rested the case for his client.
Yeah, but Mr. Karr hasn't the benefit of these proceedings, having heard them, Mr. Rutledge. No, I think we can survive a 10-minute delay. The court is still in session.
All rise. Mike, what's going on here, huh?
Take a look at this, Cliff.
This is a letter. This is Raven's letter. Where'd you find it? What hat you pull this out of?
I pulled it out of your magazine.
I didn't know I had the letter, really. I didn't.
Yeah, but you stole the magazine from Elliot Dorn's office, didn't you?
Oh, the guy is dead. What's he going to do with a magazine like that, huh?
Well, apparently what he did with it was hide Raven's letter in it. And now that we've got it, we've got to use it.
I can't believe this. You mean I had the letter all the time in that magazine?
I think we can convince Judge Lewis this evidence is important enough to warrant reopening the case.
Look, I don't know. You know, if Rutledge wants to be a sticker on this, he could say we've closed our case already. We can't introduce any new evidence.
Don't think that's going to be a problem. Judge Lewis is a fair man, and when he knows what we have, he's going to give us permission.
I think so, too. And I've known him for a long time.
Well, why don't you handle the case, then? He'll listen to you before he'll listen to me.
Is that all right with you, Logan?
It's fine with me.
Okay.
All rise. Be seated.
Mr. Karr, have you had enough time to discuss this situation with your colleagues?
Yes, Your Honor. And we would ask further the court's indulgence. We would like to ask for a reopening of the trial for Mr. Swift.
Your Honor, I object in the strongest possible terms to the antics of Mr. Swift's attorneys. This is the second time this painful decision has been delayed. It is most unfair to both the mother and the baby.
Your Honor, if we may approach the bench to discuss the nature of this new evidence, I think the court will understand its importance to the case.
Very well, Mr. Karr. Please step up to the bench. You too, Mr. Rutledge.
I don't understand. What the hell does Mike do?
I have no idea, but I'm sure he knows what he's doing.
He's certainly using it.
All right, gentlemen. Now, this court will permit these proceedings to resume, and Mr. Rutledge will be allowed to make still another closing statement at the conclusion if he so desires. So, Mr. Karr, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor, we would like to recall a previous witness, Raven Swift.
Do I have to? Why should I testify against myself?
Mrs. Swift, Would you kindly take the stand?
Your Honor, I've already given a testimony. Why do I have to subject myself to their abuse?
Now, these are not criminal proceedings, Mrs. Swift. The immunity rule does not apply. We are merely trying to get at all the facts needed for my decision. Please remember that you're still under oath from your previous testimony. Very well, Mr. Karr, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mrs. Swift, as Judge Lewis said, I did not have the privilege of hearing your testimony in this case.
Mr. Carr, it's not my fault you weren't here.
No, unfortunately, I could not be present. But I did read the transcript, and it would be quite simple for us to refresh both our memories as to what you said, especially concerning the period when you were separated from your husband.
Your Honor, do I have to say all this again?
Well, counsel will please try to avoid redundancies.
Yes, Your Honor, of course. Mrs. Swift, when you decided to separate from your husband, you also decided to go abroad. Is that correct?
Yes, I already said that.
So you purchased an airline ticket, one ticket to London. It was a one-way ticket, wasn't it?
Yes, I explained I purchased a one-way ticket because it was cheaper. I did not have very much money, and I assumed my mother would help pay for the trip back.
And, of course, you only needed one ticket because you were not taking your child with you.
No, I did not want to subject my baby to the rigors of a trip across the ocean.
Mm-hmm. So you left your child with April and Draper Scott, didn't you?
Yes.
And what did you tell Mr. and Mrs. Scott about your plans at that time?
I told them where I was going, and I asked them to take care of my baby while I was gone.
In reality, didn't you tell the Scotts that they could keep your boy and raise him as their own son?
Your Honor, you said I didn't have to answer the same questions.
You can give the same answers, Mrs. Swift.
All right. I told them that I was going to London. I told them that I loved my baby very, very much, and would they please take care of him while I was gone for a few weeks.
A few weeks, but actually you were gone for several months, weren't you?
Yes, and then I came back to get my baby.
You came back to get your letter, too, didn't you?
I beg your pardon?
Well, you left a letter with Mr. and Mrs. Scott, didn't you? That's in the transcript.
Yes, I did. I left a letter giving them permission to take care of my baby.
Exactly what did you say in that letter?
I already told that story. Do I have to keep saying these things over and over again?
All right, Mrs. Swift, I'll spare you that trouble. We'll have the court stenographer read your statement, if Your Honor will permit.
Yes, permission is granted. Oh, Miss Frobish, would you please read that passage?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Nelson, Mrs. Swift, isn't it true that you gave April and Draper Scott a letter of permission to keep your son? Mrs. Swift, I did give them a letter, that's true. Mr. Nelson, what did it say? Mrs. Swift, it merely gave them the right to take care of Jaimie during my brief absence. I thought it was proper to give them some kind of authorization. I was a lawyer's wife, you see. Mr. Nelson, isn't this the truth, that the letter said, in effect, that they had the right to keep Jaimie forever, to raise him as their own child, to adopt him if they wished? Mrs. Swift, that's a lie.
Thank you very much, Miss Frobish. That's enough. Mrs. Swift, you recall that testimony, don't you?
Yes.
And you still consider your reply correct?
Yes, that's what the letter said.
Are you familiar with this, Mrs. Swift? You do recognize this letter, don't you, Mrs. Swift?
I'm not sure.
Well, it is your handwriting, isn't it? Would you like to read it to make sure?
No, I don't have to read it.
Then allow me. To whom it may concern, I, Raven Swift, mother of Jameson Swift, do hereby give Mr. and Mrs. Draper Scott full and complete permission to raise my son as their own, with complete rights to make any and all decisions on his care, education, and upbringing, and to initiate whatever proceedings they deem necessary for legal guardianship or adoption. I declare that I am Jameson Swift's only legal parent and make this statement in full confidence and trust that April and Draper Scott will make ideal parents. And it is signed Raven Alexander Jameson Swift. This is the letter you left with Mr. and Mrs. Scott on the evening you went to London, isn't it?
I don't know. I thought that letter was lost.
Oh, yes, you thought it was lost. which is why you felt completely free to commit perjury in this courtroom.
I forgot what was in the letter. It was a long time ago. I don't remember.
In truth, you attempted to destroy this letter because you remembered its contents only too well. Mrs. Swift, you lied in this courtroom about this letter. You lied about your unfailing devotion to your child. And you lied about your true motivation in wanting him. It's vindictiveness, isn't it? It's an act of pure spite against your husband. And Mrs. Swift, spite has nothing to do with mother love.
That is not true. I love my baby. All right, I lied about the letter, but that's because I want my baby. Don't you understand? I have to have my baby.
Your Honor, a lie has been told in this courtroom, and we submit it was not just a simple lie, but one which reveals an important truth. The letter we submitted in evidence not only proves that Raven Swift was perfectly willing to give up forever the child she professes to love, but she was also willing to commit perjury in order to achieve her goal. Now, Mrs. Swift contends that the lie was motivated by the desperation of mother love. We submit that it was motivated by the unhealthy emotions of rage, revenge, and vindictiveness. As in all custody matters, the welfare of the child is the primary ingredient, the only real basis for a just decision. We ask you to consider carefully, Your Honor, whether this child will benefit or suffer when he's raised as the instrument of one parent's hatred of the other. I think we all agree that the key ingredient in raising a happy child is love. And it's love that the father, Logan Swift, brings to this court as the sole and powerful argument of his case for custody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Karr. Miss Nelson. Mr. Rutledge, is there anything further you would like to say at this time?
No, Your Honor, there's not.
Very well. This court will now stand in adjournment until such time as I am able to render my decision. The respective attorneys will be notified.
All rise.
That was terrific. It's too bad you didn't get to Elliot Dorn's office a little earlier. Maybe you would have found the letter instead of me.
I have not lost yet.
So, now you're the one who found the letter after all, huh?
Oh, I found the magazine, didn't I?
Mike, you were marvelous. What an incredible surprise.
I'd still like to know where the letter came from.
You, me, Logan, you and I both saw it fly right off the terrace.
You can thank Cliff for finding it, April.
Thank you, Cliff.
Just did a little detective work, that's all.
We'll tell you all about it later. Now it's lunchtime and I'm buying.
No. Draper and I have a better idea. You are all coming up to our house for a celebration.
I think a celebration may be premature, April. The verdict's not in yet.
I am willing to accept the invitation anyway.
I'm willing to celebrate anywhere. How can we lose after what happened?
Oh, it's so wonderful. I'm so happy.
Well, come on, let's get going. Mike, it's a shame Nancy wasn't here to see you at this big moment.
Yes, she was disappointed she couldn't be here. She had to be upstate. But I think when I tell her, she's going to be very happy what happened.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good for Logan. He deserves to have some good news.
First offense, neglect of duty, failing to padlock the scene of a crime and thus allowing unauthorized persons to have access. Second offense, giving a civilian a key and allowing him to remove or tamper with possible evidence.
How about a third offense? Making enemies with Raven Swift.
That's got nothing to do with this.
It doesn't, huh? I think it has a lot to do with it. She was in the Unicorn that night. She was looking for that letter that would help.
She was looking for a lost compact.
Oh, is that what she told you?
Look, I didn't call you in here to discuss Raven Swift.
We're discussing the Unicorn, Chief.
Now, I didn't say she was justified in her actions, no matter where she got her key from.
All right, let's say she went for a compact. Why didn't she go in daylight? Why did she go when the place was closed up and in total darkness? Why is she sneaking around in the middle of the night?
The same thing can be said for Cliff Nelson.
All right, that's what I'm saying. They were both there looking for the same thing.
The letter? What makes you think there was a letter there?
Because you told me.
I did.
Yeah. When Elliot came to your apartment the night he was killed, he told Raven that he was going to go back to his office and look for a document and see her in court.
You think that document was Raven's letter?
I do, and so does Cliff. That's why I gave him the key, so he could find something. And after he found Raven running around in Elliot's office, he came up with a pretty frightening theory. You want to hear it?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Well, if Elliot had the letter, why did he?
You tell me.
Well, I don't know. Maybe he was a confederate of hers, holding the letter for it. Doesn't make any sense. It seems like the thing should have been destroyed.
That's assuming the letter exists in the first place. You know Raven denies that.
Oh, of course she would deny it. But I know it's got to exist. So if he's holding the letter, maybe he's holding it because it's a blackmail letter.
That's an awful lot of speculation, Deborah.
Oh, but Chief, it makes so much sense. It explains why Elliot said those things to Raven. It explains why Raven went back to Elliot's office that night.
Go on.
I don't want to.
You were going to say that also explains why Elliot Dorn was murdered.
Chief, I'm on assignment. I gotta go. See you later.
Watch your balance. Really reach now. Yeah.
Don't worry, Gavin. I'm not here as a spectator. I got a lunch date with Jody. And by the way, did she ask you for permission?
You're really sore at me, aren't you?
Who, me? Well, how could I be sore at a lovable guy like you?
I guess I came down pretty hard on you this morning. I'm sorry. Okay, Jody. Why don't you get changed and get ready to go out?
Okay.
I think I ought to tell you that Calvin Stoner was asking me about you.
About me? Why did he ask you about me?
Maybe he thought we were buddies.
Well, what did he want to know?
He asked me about what I thought about your temperament.
What'd you tell him?
I told him I thought you were a cream puff. That you really didn't have the nerve to kill anybody.
Well, it's about time you two had a normal conversation.
How do you know it was normal?
Well, it looked normal enough. I could see you out of the corner of my eye.
And with that, I should have been on the mirror. No wonder your timing was off.
Oh, excuse me. Well, here I am.
Yeah, come on in. Martine, this is Jody Travis.
Oh, hi.
And her friend, Kelly McGrath.
Hi.
This is Martine Duval. She'll be using the studio for a while.
Huh. Oh, Jody, you all set?
Yeah, I'm ready. Listen, Martine, it was nice meeting you, and if you're here in a couple of hours, I'll see you then. Sure. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Dan. Bye.
Don't feed her too much, huh? Right.
Kelly, do you think that's her?
Her who?
He did call her Martine, didn't he?
Well, that's the name he used, yeah.
Then it has to be her. The dancer from New York, the one he calls Martini. No wonder why he's been acting so strange lately.
The changing room is over here.
I know.
And the record player's over here. And
I know.
You can pick out your own music.
Thank you.
I have to go. I can't hang around. I've got to take care of a couple of business details. That's what happens when you own a dance studio. You become a businessman.
Gavin, where is it?
Where's what?
Where is my music?
I must have removed it.
Why?
Because I just did, that's why. The record was getting worn out.
It sounded fine to me last time I heard it.
Well, it sounded pretty lousy to me last time I heard it. I'm sick of it, Martine. Is that a good enough answer for you? Have fun.
Thank you.
Molly, you're a miracle worker. The sandwiches look delicious. Thank you.
Well, it really was very simple, Mrs. Karr.
And she whipped him up in such a short time.
Oh, I only hoped I'd made enough.
Oh, don't worry about it.
Can I do anything to help?
Oh, you sit there and relax, Geraldine. And can I freshen your drink?
No, I wish I would have brought a bottle of champagne.
The verdict is not in, Cliff. Don't push your luck. Thank you, Molly.
Well, I think I'm going to have to agree with Cliff Nelson. I can't see Raven winning after what happened in that courtroom this morning.
Well, I'm sure we won't have to wait too long. I have the feeling Judge Lewis will have his verdict within 24 hours.
Well, 24 hours seems like a lifetime to me. I think it's the hardest thing about trials, waiting for the verdict.
Well, I still don't know what happened. You were going to tell me. How'd you get that letter?
Well, I told you all about that. It was all Cliff's work. Now, he may not be much of a lawyer, but he's a wonderful detective.
Wait a minute, I've been thinking about this stuff. You know, I may be willing to change jobs. This detective work is fun.
Don't get carried away.
No, I'm working on my next case already.
Which one's that?
Elliot Dorn's murder.
Are you serious, Cliff?
Yeah, I know who killed Elliot Dorn, and I'm going to prove it, too.
Oh, I'll get that.
Are you making a joke, or is this the truth?
Just wait and see, huh?
I'll give us a hint. Come on.
I'll do more than that in a day or two. I'll give you the murderer.
Mrs. Scott, I have to tell you something.
What is it?
Well, I just couldn't stop her. Oscar said she was already in the elevator. I guess he didn't know that she wasn't invited.
Hello, everybody. I know, April, you forgot to invite me, but I'm here.